So let me bounce out to the. So I'm in our 1108 class. Let's see. We just got 4 drawing assignments this week. We've already done one, so we're gonna do. So yeah, I'll throw myself to your guys' screen here in about 5 minutes or so. That's fine, everybody. Yeah, I think so. So bearing base right here. This is what I'm going to jump into. Yeah, so I've just changed. I realized that these assignments had to change, right? So I did go back in and say half scales will be great. Uh, I mean, I'm fine with either layout too. So I show all this, but it's just because you can either choose A size, it's going to look like that. B size is going to look a lot littler, but still okay on a B size sheet. And then with dimensions, it should probably look something more like that, or that on a B size sheet. So either one, you only have to submit one though. Just submit it. Either choose your A or B size, whatever you're happier with. Um, yeah. Yeah, we're dimensioning this week. Yep. These are yep. So I will start with the orthographic of this though. So I'll pull up my ISO sheet that I have for it. PDF that's there. Bearing base, right? Yeah, this one here. This is what we're gonna draw. Yeah. So it's like always. I take a look at what my front view is. This one lends itself well. Front view surface here, top view surface here, and right side view surface here. So I'm going to do that orientation. And I will throw my screen over to you. As soon as they populate here. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. So if I'm looking at I'll just set up my ortho. So I've got like a 5 wide, 5 by 2.5 high. Yep, 5 by 2.5, and then the top view is going to be 4 by, so it's 4 inches deep by the same 5 inches wide. So let's start there. I don't think I have a new template open yet here, so I'll open it up. This is still inches, yeah, inch template here. I'll worry about my layouts later. I'll start with some construction work, right? Yeah.
Do center lines go above or below hidden lines?
Let's see here. I would say it's you're well, yeah, I think it can be that your hidden line is definitely like is a visible I mean it could be a visible feature, so I would say that maybe that takes precedence over center lines. If they truly line up, yeah, maybe I prioritize the hidden line. Let the center line like hang out past it somewhere, or if it's in line with it, it's fine. If I think of it's a good question, like for as far as how it prints, I think they're about the same line weight though, right? Hidden line weights are 0.13 millimeter, and our center lines are the same. So, it'll probably look if they overlap each other, yeah, it'll probably blend them out in a black and white a little bit. That's a good question. Yeah, except for you can't dimension to those dang hidden lines. They seem like they're important until you just slap a dimension on and your hand gets slapped for doing that. No, I'm just kidding. It's just like you can dimension to center line though. Yeah. So that's so it's funny. It's kind of like to a dimension, center lines maybe priority, but to the actual feature, yeah, center line is just kind of a reference thing, whereas the hidden line is a feature of the part. So it's like real geometry. Yeah, that's good. Good. I probably said something completely opposite what the book says. If I did, I apologize. So sometimes I just wing my answers. Probably is. And if I was a really responsible instructor, I'd probably say, let me get to the book and let's see. But I just wing it off the top of my head. How about that? But no, that's good. I kind of will probably look it up and make sure. But I think that hidden line probably is more of a priority, except for I just can't dimension to it. And the problem with, I guess, when it printing is that they're different line types, and so likely it's gonna all blend together. on the actual, PDF or a actual printed sheet. But yeah, good question. Let's see. I'm gonna start my front view, which I decided is 5 by 2.5. Excellent. And then maybe I will save myself some pain and really toggle on ortho mode for this next one. So I seem to always be getting my top views slightly misoriented. Let's see here. I've got like a double something going on. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So in ortho mode, am I? Yeah, there we go. So just give myself some room here, and I think I have to toggle off ortho mode. I'll let you log in here. I'll stop sharing everybody. So yeah, yep. It's gonna be 5. Oh, sorry, I gotta click back in here. It's gonna be 5 by. We decided 4. I decided 4. Looks like I totally jacked that up, so I will move it. We'll toggle on ortho mode to move it. Yeah, this is just so I know how. Yep, exactly. Yep. This is so I know. I'm gonna do my 45 miter line now. Usually once I place 2, I get an idea how that's gonna look at half size on my actual drawing. Because I'm not really measuring that out. I just know I need some space to dimension, right? So I always generally once I get an idea of I'm gonna unlock my viewport so I can get an idea. I need to go to a half scale here. And then I can just get an idea of do I have a lot more room to work with? Yeah. I can probably eat a little bit more room top and bottom of where those are going to fit so I can have a little more room for dimensions if I need it. The anchor base I did, I crowded it just a little. I think I came back in and touched up my dimensioning a little bit after I initially posted the assignment. Maybe I went back and took a couple new screen grabs that I liked after just reworking my crowded dimensioning. Probably didn't bug you guys as much as it bugged me. So 1/2 scale is yeah, I just have that at 1/2 scale. So I've got this how I like it, and I can go ahead and lock this down before I jump out of there. But I'm gonna actually jump over here and increase a little bit more distance. I think I'm gonna move this, and I'm not really moving it by any particular dimension. Just gonna move it with my ortho mode logged up, my ortho mode on. So oh, I don't think I moved it much. It kind of snapped back. It's probably gonna be too much. And that's why that's doing that is because of my ortho mode, unfortunately. Like I feel like it's a helpful tool, but also a little bit annoying because I don't want it to like grab some weird grip. Excellent. I will share again. Let me do one little extend here. Just make sure I didn't move that. Okay, that's good alignment. I like it. And then this should be better, and I will jump over to your screens again. Yeah, so I think I'll actually go with this. I've still got plenty of room top and bottom if I don't snap that wrong. There we go. Yeah, that's gonna work. That's gonna work good. On the B size sheet, it's gonna look a little different. I need to just unlock it and set it to a half scale. I just as well. That way I have the option to use whichever layout I want here. Okay, now I can continue drawing. I think this is the spacing I'm gonna go with. Doesn't have to be anything by particular, but I ended up with about some random dimension here, a little over 3.5 inches away apart. So that'll work for me. And then I'll just finish.
Have to be a bit closer.
You can be closer. It's just you just got to kind of, and it is a total guess because you just don't know exactly where you're going to put what dimensions. So you're kind of shooting in the dark here, but you know that you want to put most of your dimensions between the views, and so between between front and top and between front and right side. So obviously, the further I move the top away from the front, I get space, but it also drives the right side further away and gives me space in between there. So it kind of is dual purpose once I make my miter line here. Yeah. And I mean, it's not the end of the world if we end up with them too crowded. Right now, I'm not trying to because I don't want to have to do multiple viewports, but In the future, we might actually strategically put them further apart. And then I'm just planning on multiple viewports maybe. But for right now, I'm just trying to fit them all in one viewport. So what else was I going to say? Nothing. Let me just finish this. I have my 45s on. Yep. I can have a 45 line this way to the top. And then we'll drag these around. Just one more little alignment one to make sure I have this in alignment. I think I do. Oh yeah, I do. That's good. Now we're ready to draw, right? Yes. Just take a quick look at this assignment, but I'll start with my front view. On kind of the left side surface edge here, it's just solid down. I'll see that whole line. I'll see this whole line across the bottom, all the way up the right side surface where it appears as a line. Then across the top, I'm definitely going to come out. This will all be in alignment, even though I have this jog in it here. And then I'll have a space for sure, and then I'll pick it up on that other side. So, I view this part as almost being built in two pieces in some ways. I don't know what it's made out of. It could be just a molded 3D part that's all one, and it has this little radius corner here, maybe just to keep a sharp edge transition.
Labeled,
Yeah,
mentioned.
yeah, this is one thing I want to point out here is that it's not explicitly like the radius of this is not explicitly given here. So you'd sit here and question yourself like I'm missing information, but here's the almighty powerful note. Haha. So this is it. Yeah, and it's just simple, right? We've got the regular stuff, and all of a sudden somebody snuck in number 3 that says rounds and fillets are a 1/4 inch radius. So that would be the carrier, and that's actually a place where you could carry a note. Sometimes people using their prints forget to read that there's notes on there, and they just look at dimensions, and they come and yell at you that you don't have your dimension, and then you point to a note and say, "Look, read the notes." But it can be sneaky to hide stuff in there a little bit, and but it does go to the point to where you should read your notes on your, yeah. And that's that one. It gets me every once in a while. Like even I will have made these and put a note in there, and then I'm looking for the dimension, and then even I forget to look at the notes sometimes. So, but either way, yeah, I think I've got where I can pencil some or put some visible line work in. So anyway, what's going on here is it could also be that this is a two-piece like fabrication. Like if it may be out of metal, this might be just a rectangular block that they would scoop out and drill and bore a hole through it. And then maybe a piece of pipe or something that's cut in half, and then maybe these two are welded together. And a weld could be like machine finish to kind of have this radius, especially if structural integrity didn't matter. Because technically we don't like welds to finish with a concave profile. That's actually not good welding and not structurally integrity for something that has to be. So when I see something like this, if it was a metal part made out of two pieces, I would maybe think that it was more of a sanitary thing to weld these corners because then the machinist scooped them out as kind of a concave fillet. And anyway, I like to think of what this could be and then how I would approach this if it was that. And sometimes it makes me dimension and draw a little differently for that reason. But I don't really have that information, so it doesn't matter too much. But if it was that, if it was a two-piece build, then I would definitely have to have this person do all the prep work on these two parts, and then have a welder maybe weld them together, and then take them back to the machinist where they could bore this hole through them, because you actually wouldn't be able to bore this hole clear through unless both parts were put together first. So anyway, now with the 3D plastic or something or type of material printed part, you wouldn't have to have it wouldn't require maybe a build sequence. But anyway, thoughts. Let's draw though. So I determined that the left side where it appears as a surface is solid, the bottom where it appears as a surface or as a line is a solid. And then this right side would be, and then this is going to come across some distance. I don't know what that is. But I do have that, I have some circular features, and another thing that's maybe not super clear, that maybe this could be clarified. So I'm going to make some assumptions here, which are a little bit dangerous, but is this actual half round feature, which I feel like is a pipe with thickness or something, is the center of it placed on the top surface plane? And everybody that's probably drawn this ahead has probably just done that. Whether it's explicitly shown here, it could be argued, but that is the general, like it might need some clarification to say how deep does this set in this 2.5 inch tall high block here? How deep does this set in? And it's a little unclear actually. This could be, I mean, it looks like it's right at the center line just by the way this looks, and it doesn't have anyway, but it is maybe an argument that somebody could ask, and it could need another dimension, but I'm going to assume it and put these arcs in kind of on the center of the top surface where it appears as a line. So what I'm saying is the center here, I'm gonna use that as the center of my radiuses here. And they're what? They're 1 inch and 1.5 inch radius. So I'm gonna draw those in with the radius command. But I'm saying that's what I'm gonna assume is center, and that's what maybe is a little unclear. So I'm going to do those two circles from the same center, one that's 1 inch radius, one that's 1.5 inches. Of course, these get trimmed out to where it only looks like that. And then this is where I didn't know how far that went over, but from that last point where I left off, it's going to come clear over to here. And I'm going to go back to this side like that. Doesn't look like I've done it all, but I think I'm getting close. Snap that off, take a look. Yep. Last thing I'm missing is that little fillet. So I would see that little fillet in the front view. And obviously I'm missing some hidden line work for a through hole that's going through, but I'm definitely missing this like 1/4 inch fillet. If you didn't know, like it can be a little misleading to just jump out and put that in as a quarter. It would work for you like 1/4 of an inch away more than this last outer radius that you did. But sometimes you would wonder if is there some foreshortened stuff happening here? And if you're unsure, I can always pull down a projection line from the top view where that fillet will probably look at a true 1/4 inch in the top view. And a person may just wonder if I'm looking at that fillet from a front view, is there some distortion of that going on? And so just be careful. Don't. I'm going to put it in the top view and project down, and I think we're going to find that I could have put it in right now, but it's this, 1/4 inch more than that. But let's just bring it down from the top. So I'm going to project what I've got to the top, and then just work back a little bit. But so I'm going to project this across. I'm going to project all of these points. Oh, I think I missed that just a little bit. Oh, yeah, that's good. And then I'm just going to take a look at the top view. So I've definitely got these lines across now, and this one's going to get trimmed in radius. So I'm going to put in that this is 2 inch on center. So this block is 2 inches. And another thing that's not exactly explicitly clear, I know it's 4 inches overall, and this is 2 inches, but this is something you'd wonder about when you go to dimension it. And so I'll just point it out here. If this was made out of two pieces, do I have the description thorough enough using these dimensions to place this in this block? And that's what you'd have to ask yourself. Like, and so when you have features of a part, like features, I would call like maybe this is considered a round, a radius feature. I mean, it has two radiuses associated with it, but I would kind of consider that like one kind of feature. This part coming across this other feature, which seems to be like a rectangular block. So these are things that would call like a feature. And do I have enough information to know that this feature is placed centered over this feature? And that's arguable too, that there's not clear. I know it's 4 inches, but could it be like slightly different from this surface to this surface than it is from like the backside surfaces? So if there's unclarity in this, that might mean I need to clarify that in my drawing with a couple extra dimensions. Like this is meant to be like that this feature part is centered right over this block feature. So if I had a center line on here and somehow I had dimensioned like the center of 4 here. Like I could make it so it's clearly that those are aligned. But it's better if you can state that with dimensions so that no one else has a question like, is that centered or is this one, you would think that that's 4, that's 2, so that means it's just 1 inch from this surface to that. Well, what if it's supposed to be like 1 7/8 and the other one's supposed to be 2, and it would still meet the criteria of being 4 inches wide, and that block below you would be 2 inches wide. But what if they weren't, it wasn't supposed to, it's supposed to be stronger to one side? Well, you would have to dimension that. And even if it's not, even if it is centered, then you better dimension it so that someone knows that those are like the center of that 4 is centered over the center of the 2, if that makes sense. I know I'm kind of beating it at, I'm just kind of like hitting this, but it is some unclear, so I've already pointed out a couple things that I've had to kind of assume, and these are things that I would want to go back and verify. I mean, I might do the modeling of it and make some of these assumptions. If it was a simple model, if it was a pretty complex model and I had questions right off the bat, I probably need to get clarification before I spend hours and hours modeling something that I just didn't I should have not just assumed things, and I should have had a discussion. That'll save me some headache of rework. But if it's a simple model like this, I might be able to just go ahead and I'll just do the modeling. I'll catch my engineer or my project manager when there's a little bit of a window of time, but I'll have quite a bit of the work done and I'll be able to modify it if it's not what I think it is. And then I can have that discussion before I ever send this part and have some issues potentially. But anyway, that's kind of what I'm thinking in my brain, is that there might be some clarification needed. That long story short is I think I'm going to put in a center line from here to here across this. And it's mostly just so I can work off there and say that I have this 4 inch depth that I'm working with, and the 2 inch block underneath is going to be off of center. So I think I'm going to draw that in like this. Maybe from center, I might draw it in. It might come down here like 1 inch. And then it comes in to where it hits this part right here, I think. And yeah, I think so. I think I'm going to see it like that. And then this is going to be traced. But maybe I'm going to stop that for a minute because this, yeah, well, I don't know. I'm going to go back up this way. I'm just going to chip away at this for no reason other than comes like that. Maybe I'll put these in. I think I will. Out to that corner. That's where that fillet's going to be, is right here between this corner and this corner. That's going to become a fillet that's listed in our notes. This side is going to become a line here. So I've got that. Maybe I will go ahead and do that fillet. I'm thinking of mirroring this, by the way. So now I'm thinking I might even just draw like a center line this way across this, and I might just match those properties of this one. That's just a reference center line. So I'm going to switch that like that. But what I've got is I've got this. I'm going to do a fillet. I'm going to call the radius they're 1/4 inch in that notes list, 1/4 inch fillets. So I'm going to do multiple of these. And I think I'm going to do this one, and that one should look like this, I think. That one. So that's kind of that top surface. It kind of looks like a T on its side, right? And if I look at it looks like this. It should be 2 inches across, and then this top surface is all kind of blended together now to the inner bore of this, whatever this is. Yeah, so I think that would look like what I've got. If I want a better look at it, turn off my construction lines. Oh, I just need to cap off the ends of it right there for sure. That's why I do these checks sometimes. I can't always tell where I've drawn, where I haven't, but this would be a solid visible line here. Then it looks more like a T probably. Oh, did I just draw those on a paper layer? That'd be horrible. I think I did. And I'll just turn that off again. It should look like, yeah, that looks good. I'm gonna mirror this over that and just have that, all this work I've done here, I'm just gonna mirror it over. So I'll turn back on my construction lines. I've just essentially made half of that, so I'll just mirror all those little parts over. I could join them and then have them as one single selection. You notice I do that with my flat pattern parts. Because I visualize that sometimes 2D flat pattern parts, like we were doing like week 3, and I was having them join at the end. It's because I visualize like 2D patterns like that are like cut file patterns ready for cutting equipment. This, I'm not doing that as much because this is, I can do it though. It's not like against the rules, but I'm really always viewing these views as 3D objects. These are not 2D objects, right? So there's definitely I have a different mental picture of what I'm drawing here. This is not a 2D object, this is 3D. Maybe that's easy to understand, but I'm going to mirror these, I think, and then I may have already been in the mirror command, and then I just got out of it while I was talking, but I do want to mirror all these. Next time I'll not that one. If you select something you don't want, just shift, hold down shift and select it again. That's how you deselect something from your selection group. And now that is, and my mirror line's this right here. Yes, I love this. And then I don't want to erase those source objects. So now I would still have, I still need to connect between those two. So there should be, and I could have drawn half of that in and done it, but even though that surface drops kind of down and around me in a U shape, I'll see it as a line here. The surface will appear as a line across here. And so now this is probably getting a little closer to what the top view looks like. Obviously it has a through borehole through here that'll show up as hidden. And the fillet now I have. And so maybe I'll project these down to the front view and I'll find that probably, I mean, it measures a 1/4 inch. It really does. Like if I get in here and measure this distance, this is the distance that I'm going to project down. It's a 1/4 inch. So I could have done like a 1/4 inch offset and I could still do that. Like I could choose to project those down, or I could actually just come down here and do an offset command and say that it's 1/4 inch offset, and I'm going to offset this like that. And I didn't do it because I exited my command, unfortunately. Without clicking, there we go. It's going to look like that, but these are going to project. They will line up. Like I just did a quick measurement check, but a projection check is that those do line up like that. So I could either use projection or I could just offset like I did. I feel like I'm a completist sometimes. I'm going to do this one now that I did the other one. Yeah, I think that's a good start on front. I'm gonna take all that stuff around. Yeah, is it the radius to 1.5? Is it we're talking this outer circle here? Oh, right here. Yeah, I did an offset of a 1/4 inch from that one, but this is a 1/4 inch this is a 1/4 inch fillet here. Yeah. And so I used, when I made it here, I used the fillet command and set my radius at a 1/4 inch and then snap those lines and it did. I kind of strategically did these short, knowing that I was going to put that fillet in. If you had drawn that all the way across and you picked one, it would probably shorten it really bad. You'd have to redraw some of the line. Like sometimes that'll do that to me, and if I'm not paying attention, maybe I would have drawn this in as a solid visible line first. Then I would have realized that I need to put in the fillet, and I would have clicked those two, and it would have chopped it way short over to here, and then I would have had to redraw this section. But anyway, I kind of planned on. I already had these as segmented pieces that filleted easily, but it wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't. Be fine, but and then bring these across. This is the width of the block. It's really the depth of the block right here in the right side view. That's that 2 inches across. And then I'm going to project some stuff over. I don't think I'm going to project anything else over from here at this point. I'm going to come over from the front view though, and maybe put some of these, the depths of some of these. Yeah, right here. I'm just going to go all the way across here. That'll appear as a line, this radius contour down at the 6 o'clock position. It's going to appear as a line in this view. Same with all of these, really. This one too. So I can bring these across, and then even this one maybe. Yeah. And then I think I'm going to just start putting in some of the details here. So it's definitely visible line here across the 2 inch depth of that. And then it's going to go up. I'll do what I was just talking about. I was going to do. So I'm going to draw this. It goes up and then it hits all this stuff. So I'm going to draw all the way up to the top. I know it doesn't actually go there, but I'm going to recreate what I was just telling you about those fillets. Because really this would come up to here. And then this is going to come out from there. That's the outer line, or that's the outer surface of that, what I just keep calling a pipe or whatever, that outer surface is there. So that's where that line is going to come across. And then from there, it's going to look straight up. All of this U-shaped surface is going to appear as a line over here. So I feel like what this is going to look like on this side is come up above the filleted area and come out to the real uh, where the bore kind of the external of the bore here goes out to there. That all appears as a line, that surface. And really across the top, it's all going to look like that whole top surface is going to look like a line 4 inches wide like that. And then this is going to come back down and back in. And then I'm going to say enter. And then what I want to do is put in a little fillet here. So if I take a look at what this looks like without that on there, that's what it looks like. I need the little fillet here. This is if the part didn't have a fillet, it'd have a really sharp corner in here. And that can be, if you remember from that chapter 4 stuff, was like, oh, things can be, if it was a molded part, maybe a cast part, right? So cast parts with molding or some kind of an injection molded part, sometimes they're hard to extract from their molds if they have these sharp corners where that surface meets kind of the round radius surface. So this fillet can also act as to help with mold extraction or to help not cause like a stress point of where those two surfaces meet. Of course, this surface is a radial surface and it looks rectangular in this view, but it is really round. And so anyway, so I'm going to fillet this and it's gonna erase this whole line right there, which is actually probably to my advantage, maybe, or I might have to redraw it in. But the radius I think I have preloaded is already a 1/4 inch because that's the only radius I've used with my fillet command. Yep, it is. And then I'm just going to select multiple as well and put in this to this like that. I'm going to do this one over here. And see, it'll just erase that whole long line. And sometimes I have to read if I need that line back in there, I just redraw it in. And the answer is I would need that drawn back in because if I visualize from the right side view and from this surface to this surface, yeah, this is all going to appear as a line here, at least down to the bottom of the radius, I think. Yeah, I think so. I think I'm going to have this line back in. And potentially the line next to it too. This one does maybe I'm going to show that this has that fillet look to it there. And it should still be a 1/4 inch across here as well. Make sure that is something hasn't gone weird, but I'm going to redraw this. So I'm actually doing this without my construction line on just for no reason other than I think I can see clearly what that's going to look like. I could project those around from the top too, right? Those would project around. I'll turn back on my construction line work now, but those would pick up if I would have projected these across. So you're not required to put in every projection line. I always do turn on your construction layers though to see if you're using orthographic projection or not. It's one of the rubric items, and it's just trying to. I view this as close as I ever get to pencil drawing. I've explained this to a few students that really this kind of does replicate what I would draw with my paper in front of me with a big T square and triangles on my board that I would always be able to do these long linear like nice straight lines from one view to the next. That's just how pencil drawers drew. It saved them time and they could just project this around. So this is like a throwback to your ancestors in a little ways. And the program is doing this automatically if you've built a 3D object. It's just using these same principles to keep things in orthographic projection, which is usually how it always wants to lay. When you lay out a 3D part on paper, it kind of want to orient itself in orthographic projection as just a standard. So anyway, throw that in. I think I'm ready. I need to put the hole in this here, so I'm definitely going to just make a mark here. Sorry, where that is. It is an inch by inch right there, and it's a 3/4 inch diameter through hole. Through meaning all the way through the part. We get to use our shorthand English and use like a through like it stands, but not how an English professor would want you to write through, probably. That's too many letters, though. And then so it's 1 by 1 is where the center of that will be. And then this will be a 1 inch, or sorry, 3/4 inch diameter. So 3/4 inch diameter would be a 375 radius. 3/8 radius is a 3/4 diameter. Looks like that. I think so. the one thing I was interested in when I first drew this part was if that hole actually like, came out of this surface and went across. From this, it doesn't look like it because I would see it like tear through that if it did. So this hole does sit below that surface, but it definitely bores through this and, both of these parts. If they were a two-piece part, that's why you'd have to put them together first because this bore hole is going to go through both materials. If it's all one, just if it's all just one material, it wouldn't matter. But so I'm gonna project those across for my hidden lines. I need hidden lines in the top view for that. So I'll take them all the way across. Oh, I shouldn't be projecting hidden lines, so I'll change that real quick. But I was getting ahead of myself, hoping I was there. But let's just turn those back to a construction line. Yeah, so that will be, and I could have offset that too. I could have actually put that in there and offset that center line that I had, but I projected it over. I need to project that through to the uh, right side view. So you can tell this kind of how I work. Sometimes I work features through all the views. Like I'll start, get the main visible line features, and then I'm working this whole feature, and I've chosen to draw it in where it appears visible, and then I'm using projection just to draw it in the other views, and then and that helps me keep my grid. Even though my grid gets saturated, I'm always working with something that I just drew. So it's like that helps me kind of keep sense. If I'm always skipping around and finishing half a feature in one view, then I might forget. See, that's not even the right. But I might forget that I didn't finish something. I do that with dimensioning too. Like I might focus on a feature, get its size dimensioned, then get its location pinned down, and then move on, and not just do like one dimension. Like when I go to do this hole and I go to dimension it, I'm definitely going to do its size. I'm going to pick the view that has its size, and then I'm going to pick the view that will best define its location, probably in a horizontal and vertical dimension. And I'm just going to finish that out before I move on to the next feature, because otherwise, if I just do the size and I move on to something else, I'll forget to lock in maybe its location. And that's what I want you to always think to yourself when you have features to dimension is I want you to always have like size and location, size and location, size and location built into your brain. Every time you're like dimensioning a feature, always say, do I know the size of this feature? Do I know the location of this feature? And if you can pin both of those down, move on to the next feature and dimension it for size and location, size and location. Okay. I'll say that a lot, but I won't say it anymore today. I will probably. Hidden line this way. So that's what I'm doing. Trying to stay focused and finish this features stuff. Hidden line that way. Yeah, that's the whole hidden lines. I'm happy with that. Um, the other thing that would have hidden lines is kind of these radius features down and around. If I have an edge that I'm showing here, it's probably going to appear as a hidden line in the top view, this whole edge right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in and that's debatable whether that's necessary. Maybe it makes things a little confusing, and it goes. It seems like we end up with the dilemma on a lot of fillets, whether I show them or whether they don't get shown. And so this is, somebody could critique this and say, I don't know if I'd show those hidden lines there, and then I would just omit them potentially if I don't feel like they're adding clarity. But this is what it's going to look like if I was considering those fillets as kind of features, the edges of that little fillet potentially. Nah, but it's debatable whether or not that should be there or not. But I think this is pretty well what the top view looks like. So and then I just need maybe I'll jump over to my center line layer and jump over to like a center line. I need to show a center line for the whole through like this, right? And it should have its extensions at 1/4 inch. Yep. This is also a radius feature that looks rectangular in this view, so I'm going to draw a center line down through. And so I can actually use that same command with these two lines. Yeah, you'll notice if you're using short lines, if the way you've drawn your lines are segmented in some way, even though it should be a continuous line, when you go to do a center line like that, like if I was to do a center line between here and here, I think it's going to do this weird shorter line. And so you have to be strategic. Not that this couldn't be extended and the grips pulled, but yeah, go ahead, Jen. The offset, this one. Yeah, it's going to be they're going to be the diameter of this, so it's 3/4 inch diameter, and so these should measure 3/8 from the center out, from here to here, 3/8, 375. Yeah, yeah, and you could have used that. You could have put those in as an offset line if you had a center line there to work off of. Go ahead, Aria. Well, this is what I've just been saying. So you would have just fallen into the category of people that said, why do I do that? And I would say, well, it's debatable. But if somebody did do it like I did, I would also understand, oh, what I'm seeing is the edges of this feature coming around. For sure I need that one. For sure this is going to look like a hidden line. So that lines up with one of the fillets. So this one is absolutely necessary. It is the lower surface of the block, this surface right here. So this one has to go in. That's the hidden line of the 2 inch wide block. That this one is debatable, is the one I say, but I put it in there for sure. I just put it in, and then it shows this same fillet in the hidden view, but you've got to have the inside one. Got to have it. Yeah, and then I got to make sure that's 1/4 inch extensions, which I did do. So I think that's my center line work for the top view. Center line work for this gets a little funky. But we'll do this work a lot. So I'm going to use my center mark, and I'm probably going to pick this outer radius. I'm not going to pick the fillet here, although I'll find out that it wouldn't really matter if I did. But I'm going to pick this one for sure. This is definitely the feature that needs, like this one needs a center line, this one, but they are concentric. And so I'm going to pick the larger one so that my extensions incorporate the larger radius there, and maybe not necessarily as critical to incorporate the fillet as being like centered with the other. Really, this center mark is really for this and this feature. But what I don't love, and I do want the 1/4 inch extension, so I'll just do that before I forget to do it. So I'm gonna just go into my and just do that. I almost do that just habitually. But then it's not actually how I want this to look either, though. I don't need this to stretch like that. There's no object lines that I'm referencing here. So I'm going to pull the grip back to the grip and leave the extension at like this. So my extension's still there, but I just pulled that the main square grip back to the center, just so it's not excessive. And I'm going to do that here too. So you might think, well, I'll just like throw it to back. And really the way this is funny. It's just kind of an outlier of when you have kind of a weird radius that ends like this, that the center line would actually be pulled like this. I'm probably going to pull this back to here, but then I'm also going to pull it back an additional 1/16 of an inch. So I'm almost going to view this as kind of like how an extension line on a dimension, like just goes to the point, but then it tucks back a 1/16. That's the way we set our dimension line, our extensions to be offset from the object, right? So there's a 1/16 gap there. I'm gonna kind of do that here. The number that I have in like what it ends up being when I pull that back is this ends up being a true 1 inch from the center. So I'm just going to go back a 1/16. You may not have that. I have that in memorized in my head. 15/16 is 0.9375. So if I type that in, that's going to be the end of my line. And then I'm going to turn off my extension so that's at 0. And that's the right extension. So I'm just going to turn this to 0. And that's actually how I want to finish a center line to a bore like this in this particular situation, which is kind of a unique situation a little bit. But this just looks a little cleaner. What's that? Oh, what did I? Oh, the extension. I turned off the extension here. So originally I put them all at 1/4 inch like I would normally any center mark. But in reality, this is like fine drafting detail work here. I ended up making this a 1/16 short of where it spans, 0.9375. And then I'm going to turn off the left extension as well to 0. And so this is the way I would have that finished. Then,
What's the offset? Again, sorry.
oh yeah. It's not a 0.9375. Is that? Yeah, 0.9375. That's because this line is 1 inch long to actually touch it, and I pulled it back like a 1/16 of an inch. Yeah. Yeah, the whole line length ends up being 0.9375 instead of 1. Yeah. It seems like when you grab that grip and you want to pull it back, and if you type in a 1/16, it'll actually think that you're only a 16th inch of it. But so that's a finagling way. I mean, it would be one that I could just like eyeball and pull back, and probably nobody would like second guess me, but this looks clean. I do have a little interference where it actually totally lines up with that just by the nature of it. So I might pull this back just a little bit. That's such a stupid small detail, wouldn't matter, but That's how I would like my center mark to finish. And then I just need this one too across, right? And then I can just match the properties from one of them that I've already extended, like the upper one here, and go ahead and apply it to this one. And then I've got to have the center mark over here. And this one maybe is just, sorry, I pick center mark at some point. Yeah. I'll just type in those offsets. I think I'm going to keep those ones at 1/4 inch, all of them. This one also this is a rectangular view of something that's cylindrical. So I want a center line associated with it, but the center line for it lines up with this center line right here, right? So there would be this center line across the top. So I'm going to put one in with just a line command, I think, and I'm on the center layer. So I'm just going to put in a line. The center line would really be across the top here. And then it needs to extend like a 1/4 inch like it would. So this is when I can just put in a 1/4 inch and extend those end grips that I drew. Or I could have cursored over, but I'll do it like this. I do want to send that one to back. I definitely don't want to prioritize that center line over my visible line. So I think I can send that one to back. Send to back this thing. Then so it almost won't show much, but it would be a necessary feature to have those slight center lines jump out. Of course, they'll be buried on the plotter. It'll be buried under that visible line, but at least I'll see that there's some continuity between views here. Those center lines are orthographically aligned. Helps me make sense out of that. Yeah, I think I'm pretty close to. I don't know if anybody's noticed if I've missed anything. I mean,
Hidden line, right? That goes to the bottom of.
Yeah, absolutely. I should have the inner bore, right? This inner bore should be a hidden line across here. Yeah, absolutely. So and I might even make sure I have that on my construction layer, or yeah, I probably have something I can trace because I brought over that originally, and it wasn't any visible line work, so it needs to be a hidden line work. So I have a line I can trace, which is this one that comes over to here. I should have stayed focused on my hidden line work before I jumped to center line work, but that one would be. I agree. Good catch. Everything else kind of lines up. Any other hidden features here would line up with visible features, I think. Yeah. I'm ready to dimension this thing. So let's do that. We got lots of room to work with. This looks good on my sheet. Yeah, I might move that up when I get done. We'll see what dimensions I end up with, and then I'll worry about line type scales in a bit.